The training facility on Station Kepler hummed with the usual morning chaos. Recruits from 17 different species shuffled through the corridors, their various appendages clicking, scraping, and thumping against the polished floors. Commander Vellis, a towering Kryn with 4 arms and skin like burnished copper, stood at the entrance to the main gymnasium, his mandibles clicking in anticipation. Today was special. Today, they were getting a human trainer. Vellis had heard the stories, of course. Everyone had. Humans came from a death world called Earth, a planet so hostile that its dominant species had evolved into walking nightmares of endurance and adaptability. But stories were just stories, right? He had seen humans before, walking around the station, looking soft and squishy and entirely unremarkable. How dangerous could they really be? The door hissed open and a figure walked through. She was small, maybe 5 feet, 6 inches tall, with dark hair pulled back into a practical ponytail and brown eyes that seemed to catalogue everything in a single sweep. She wore a simple, grey training uniform that looked 2 sizes too casual for a military facility, and she carried nothing but a small duffel bag slung over one shoulder. Vellis felt his confidence surge. This was their legendary Deathworlder. This tiny, fragile-looking creature. "Commander Vellis!" The human extended a hand. A strange custom Vellis had learned meant greeting among her kind. "I'm Sergeant Maya Reeves, Earth Defense Corps. I'll be running your conditioning program for the next 6 cycles." Vellis took her hand carefully, worried he might crush the delicate appendage. Her grip was firm. Too firm. His inner wrist joints creaked slightly under the pressure, and he pulled back faster than he intended. Maya smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator who had just sized up prey and found it wanting. "Shall we begin?" she asked, her tone pleasant, almost cheerful. The gymnasium was packed. 40 recruits from the Galactic Defense Initiative stood in loose formation, whispering among themselves in a dozen different languages. There were Kryn like Vellis, insectoid Tharsis with their crystalline exoskeletons, gaseous velum contained in environmental suits, and even a pair of massive Drenthak, each standing nearly 8 feet tall and built like living siege engines. Maya walked to the center of the room, her footsteps making barely a sound. She dropped her duffel bag and turned to face the assembled recruits, hands on her hips. "Good morning," she said, her voice carrying effortlessly across the space. "My name is Sergeant Reeves, but you can call me Sergeant. For the next 6 cycles, I'm going to teach you what real conditioning looks like, not the soft, low-gravity nonsense you've been doing. Real training, the kind we do on Earth." A ripple of amusement passed through the crowd. One of the Drenthak, a hulking male named Gorvan, let out a booming laugh that rattled the equipment racks. "With all respect, Sergeant," Gorvan rumbled, his voice like grinding stone, "you look like I could snap you in half. What could you possibly teach us?" Maya's smile widened. "I'm so glad you asked. Why don't you come up here and demonstrate for everyone?" Gorvan lumbered forward, each step shaking the floor. He stood in front of Maya, towering over her like a mountain over a pebble. The other recruits murmured excitedly, already placing bets on how quickly this would end. "Now, Gorvan," Maya said, tilting her head back to look up at him. "I want you to push me, hard as you can. Try to move me out of this spot." Gorvan's craggy face split into something resembling a grin. "I don't want to hurt you, little human." "You won't," Maya replied, her tone dripping with something that might have been amusement or might have been menace. "Trust me." Gorvan shrugged, placed both massive hands against Maya's shoulders, and pushed. Nothing happened. He pushed harder, his thick muscles bunching, his feet digging grooves into the floor. Maya didn't budge. She stood there, relaxed, hands still on her hips, looking almost bored. Gorvan's eyes widened. He set his stance, lowered his center of gravity, and shoved with everything he had. The floor cracked beneath his feet. The air filled with the sound of straining sinew and grinding teeth. Maya examined her fingernails. "Are you done?" she asked pleasantly. Gorvan staggered back, breathing hard, staring at the human like she had just revealed herself to be made of solid titanium. The gymnasium had gone completely silent. How? He gasped. How is that possible? Maya rolled her shoulders. Gravity. Earth's gravity is 0.98 times what you're experiencing right now on this station. I've spent my entire life carrying around effectively twice my body weight, just by existing. Every step, every movement, every breath has been a workout since the day I was born. You might be bigger, Gorvan, but I'm denser, stronger, and a hell of a lot meaner when I need to be. She turned to address the rest of the recruits, her expression hardening. You all think you're tough because you passed basic training on your cushy, low-gravity worlds. You think you're ready for combat? You're not, but I'm going to fix that. By the time I'm done with you, you'll either be real soldiers or you'll wash out. I don't care which, but I promise you this. Nobody, and I mean nobody, quits on me without earning it. Are we clear? A scattered chorus of acknowledgements rippled through the crowd. Maya cupped a hand to her ear. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. I said, are we clear? Yes, Sergeant. The response was unified this time, sharp and immediate. Outstanding. Now drop and give me 20 push-ups, Earth standard. The recruits hesitated, exchanging confused glances. Commander Vellis raised one of his hands. Sergeant, what exactly is an Earth standard push-up? Maya demonstrated, dropping smoothly to the floor and performing a perfect push-up with textbook form. She made it look effortless. This, full extension, chest to floor, no sagging, no cheating, 20 of them. Now, the recruits dropped. Within 30 seconds, the gymnasium filled with the sounds of groaning, gasping, and the occasional whimper. The Drenthak managed 5 before collapsing. The Tharsis made it to 8 before their limbs started trembling. Even Commander Vellis, with all 4 arms working, could only complete 12 before his muscles gave out entirely. Maya walked among them, her expression unreadable. Pathetic, absolutely pathetic. You know what human children do in basic fitness training. 50 of these, before breakfast, and they don't complain about it because they know if they want to survive on Earth, they need to be strong. She stopped in the center of the room, surveying the gasping, exhausted recruits sprawled across the floor like casualties of a battle they hadn't known they were fighting. Rest period is over in 30 seconds. Then we're doing squats. After that, we're doing sprints. Then we're doing the whole thing again and again and again until you stop looking like victims and start looking like soldiers. A Tharsis named Click, her crystalline carapace heaving with exertion, raised a trembling limb. Sergeant, permission to speak. Granted. Why are you doing this to us? What did we do to deserve this torture? Maya's expression softened, just slightly. You didn't do anything wrong, Click. But out there in the real galaxy, some things want to kill you. Pirates, hostile species, environments that will tear you apart if you're not ready. I'm not torturing you. I'm preparing you. Because when you're in the field and everything goes wrong, and you're the last one standing between your crew and annihilation, you're going to need every ounce of strength and endurance you can get. And on that day, you're going to thank me for pushing you this hard. She clapped her hands together, the sound sharp as a gunshot. Now, get up. We've got work to do. The next 4 hours were, in the collective opinion of every recruit present, absolute hell. Maya ran them through exercises they didn't know existed, pushed them past limits they didn't know they had, and showed not one molecule of mercy to anyone who faltered. She demonstrated every single exercise herself first, performing them with a casual ease that bordered on insulting, then expected them to match her form, if not her stamina. By the time the session ended, the gymnasium looked like a battlefield. Recruits lay sprawled everywhere, panting, groaning, some questioning their life choices in multiple languages. Maya stood in the center of it all, barely winded, taking a small sip from a water bottle. Not bad for day 1, she said, her tone suggesting she thought it was actually quite bad. Tomorrow, we start at 500 hours. Don't be late. Dismissed. As the recruits limped toward the exits, Commander Vellis approached Maya, his forearms hanging limp and useless at his sides. Sergeant Reeves, he said, his voice hoarse, I owe you an apology. I underestimated you. Maya turned to him, and her expression was genuinely kind now, devoid of the predatory edge from earlier. No apology necessary, Commander. Everyone does it first. It's not your fault. You just didn't know what Earth produces, but you're going to learn. Will they all survive this training? Vellis asked, gesturing at the departing recruits. Maya considered the question seriously. Physically, yes, I know exactly how far each species can be pushed. But mentally? That's up to them. The body can do amazing things when the mind refuses to quit. That's what I'm really teaching them. Not strength, not endurance. I'm teaching them that they're capable of so much more than they think. And that's a lesson. Commander, that's worth every drop of sweat. Vellis nodded slowly, newfound respect evident in his posture. I think I understand now. The stories about Deathworlders, they're not about your strength, are they? They're about your refusal to accept limitations. Maya picked up her duffel bag and slung it over her shoulder. Now you're getting it. See you tomorrow, Commander. And do yourself a favor, get some rest. You're going to need it. As she walked out of the gymnasium, leaving behind a room full of exhausted, aching, but oddly inspired recruits, Maya allowed herself a small smile. Day 1 was always the hardest. Not for her, of course, but for them it was a shock to the system, a wake-up call they desperately needed. And tomorrow they would discover that day one had been the easy part. The alarm shrieked through the barracks at exactly 0400 hours, a full hour before the scheduled training time. Recruits jolted awake, confusion mixing with the deep muscle aches that reminded them yesterday had not been a fever dream. Commander Vellis was the first to check his communicator. The message was simple, direct, and deeply concerning. Surprise inspection in 15 minutes, full gear, gymnasium, do not be late. Reeves. 15 minutes. It took most species 20 minutes just to get their environmental suits calibrated. Vellis's 4 arms trembled as he rushed through his morning routine, hearing similar chaos erupting throughout the barracks, crashes, curses in multiple languages, and the distinctive sound of Gorvan accidentally putting his massive fist through a wall panel in his haste. Vellis made it to the gymnasium with 30 seconds to spare. Most of the others arrived in a ragged stream, some still fastening their gear, others limping from muscles that had seized up overnight. Click stumbled through the door with 5 seconds remaining, her crystalline legs clicking frantically. Maya stood in the center of the room, immaculate in her training uniform, arms crossed, checking a chronometer on her wrist. Cutting it close, people. But you all made it. Well done. Gorvan, still breathing hard from his sprint, raised one massive hand. Sergeant, you said, 500 hours yesterday. Why did you change it? Maya's smile was absolutely wicked. Because the enemy doesn't send you a calendar invite before they attack Gorvan. You need to be ready at any moment. Not just when it's convenient. Consider this your first lesson in adaptability. She walked toward a large equipment locker that Vellis didn't remember being there yesterday. With a casual push, she swung it open, revealing rows of weighted vests, resistance bands, and various implements of torture, disguised as training equipment. Today we're going to talk about carrying capacity, specifically how much weight you can move while maintaining combat effectiveness. On Earth, soldiers routinely carry 70 to 100 pounds of gear in the field. That's roughly 30 to 45 kilograms for those of you who prefer the metric system. And we do it in Earth gravity, which, as we discussed yesterday, is significantly higher than what you experience here. She pulled out a weighted vest and tossed it to Vellis. He caught it, surprised by its heft. These are calibrated for station gravity, but designed to simulate the carrying load of an Earth soldier. You will wear these for the rest of today's session. Put them on. The groans that followed were music to Maya's ears. She waited patiently as each recruit struggled into their vest, watching their postures change, their movements become more labored. When everyone was geared up, she nodded in satisfaction. Perfect, now we run. Follow me. She turned and jogged toward the exit, The recruits, weighted down and still sore from yesterday, scrambled to follow. Maya led them out of the gymnasium and into the station's service corridors, maintaining a pace that seemed leisurely for her, but was absolutely punishing for everyone else. Behind her, Vellis heard the heavy breathing, the muttered complaints, the sound of feet and appendages struggling to maintain rhythm. Maya, for her part, showed no signs of strain. She ran with the easy grace of someone out for a morning stroll, occasionally glancing back to ensure no one had collapsed. "You know what's funny?" she called over her shoulder, not even winded. "This isn't even fast by human standards. This is what we call a recovery jog, the pace we use when we're trying to take it easy after a hard workout." A velum named Mist, his environmental suit wheezing with the effort of keeping up, managed to gasp out a question. "How is that even possible? Your species should not be able to function at this intensity." Maya laughed, the sound echoing off the corridor walls. "You want to know the secret, Mist? Humans don't just survive on Earth. We thrive there. We evolved to chase down prey for hours until it collapsed from exhaustion. We evolved to throw rocks with enough force to crack skulls. We evolved to heal from injuries that would kill most species and come back stronger. We're not the biggest, not the strongest, not the fastest, but we're the most stubborn. And in nature, stubbornness beats talent every single time." She led them through a maze of corridors, up 3 levels via the emergency stairs, which they had to climb while wearing the weighted vests, across a maintenance catwalk that swayed alarmingly under Gorvan's weight, and finally back to the gymnasium. The entire circuit took 40 minutes. By the end, half the recruits were crawling. Maya stopped in the center of the gym, hands on her hips, barely breathing hard. "Time check. 42 minutes, 18 seconds. That's actually not terrible for day 2. Yesterday, I would have given you an hour. You're improving already. See what happens when you push past your comfort zone." She let them rest for exactly 90 seconds, then clapped her hands. "Vests, stay on. Now we're doing combat drills. Partner up. I want to see grappling technique." The recruits paired off, exhaustion warring with determination in their eyes. Maya walked among them, correcting stances, demonstrating holds, occasionally stepping in to spar with someone herself. When she faced off against Gorvan again, the entire room stopped to watch. "Come on, big guy," she said, beckoning with both hands. "Let's see what you learned yesterday about leverage." Gorvan approached more cautiously this time, respect evident in his careful movements. He reached for Maya, trying to use his superior reach to his advantage. She slipped inside his guard like water, hooked one leg behind his knee, and used his own momentum to send him crashing to the mat. The impact shook the floor. Before he could recover, she had him in a joint lock that made his massive arm completely immobile. "Strength doesn't matter if your opponent knows where to apply pressure," she said, not unkindly. "Your joints are your weakness. Every species has them. Learn to protect yours and exploit theirs." She released him and helped him to his feet. Gorvan rubbed his shoulder, his craggy face showing something that might have been admiration. "You could have really hurt me just then." "But I didn't," Maya replied, "because I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to teach you. There's a difference." The rest of the morning passed in a blur of techniques, corrections, and increasingly exhausted recruits. Maya demonstrated throws, locks, strikes, and defensive maneuvers, always with the weighted vests on, always pushing them just a little bit further than they thought they could go. By midday, when she finally called a halt, Commander Vellis approached her with a question that had been nagging at him. "Sergeant, may I ask something personal?" "Go ahead, Commander." "Why did you volunteer for this assignment? You could be training elite human forces working with your own kind. Instead, you're here with us, teaching aliens how to fight. Why?" Maya was quiet for a moment, her expression thoughtful. "You want the real answer? Because 3 years ago, I was part of a joint operations team, mixed species, good people, skilled in their own ways. We got ambushed by pirates in the outer reach. The fighting was brutal, close quarters, no room for finesse, just raw survival. And you know what I watched? I watched aliens who were technically proficient, who knew all the moves, who had passed every test, freeze up when things got real. They weren't prepared for the chaos, the fear, the pain, and some of them died because of it. Her jaw tightened. I made a promise that day. If I survived, if I made it back, I would make sure that never happened again. Not on my watch. So, yeah, I push you hard. I push you past your limits. Because when you're out there and everything goes wrong, I want you to have that extra reserve, that extra bit of strength and stubbornness that keeps you alive. I owe that to the people I lost. Vellis felt something shift in his understanding of the small human in front of him. They were your friends, the ones who died. They were, Maya confirmed, her voice soft. And every recruit I train, every alien I push to their breaking point and then pull back from the edge. That's me honoring their memory. That's me making sure their deaths meant something. The commander nodded slowly, all four hands clasped in a gesture of deep respect. Then we will not let you down, Sergeant. We will honor them too, by becoming the soldiers you're trying to forge us into. Maya smiled, genuine warmth breaking through her drill sergeant exterior. That's all I ask, Commander. That's all I've ever asked. The afternoon session was different. Maya brought out equipment that looked like it belonged in a torture chamber rather than a training facility. Climbing ropes that extended to the gymnasium ceiling, obstacle courses that seemed designed by someone with a grudge against physics, and a monstrosity she called the Gauntlet. This is the final test for today, she announced, gesturing at the obstacle course. You will complete this circuit 3 times. Vests stay on. The first person to finish gets tomorrow morning off. The last person to finish does the whole thing again. Alone. With me watching. Any questions? Click's crystalline form seemed to droop. What if we cannot finish at all? Maya's expression was iron. Then you keep going until you do. I've never had a recruit fail to finish. It might take some of you 6 hours, might take some of you 20 minutes, but you will finish, because quitting is not an option. Not anymore. Not after yesterday. Not after this morning. Not ever again. You are stronger than you think. Now prove it. To me, to your fellow recruits, and, most importantly, to yourselves. She raised a hand, holding a small whistle. On my mark. 3, 2, 1, go. The whistle shrieked, and chaos erupted. Recruits threw themselves at the obstacle course with everything they had left. Vellis found himself climbing a rope he would have sworn was impossible yesterday, his 4 arms working in coordination, the weighted vest trying to drag him down with every movement. Below him, Gorvan navigated a series of low crawls under electrified bars, his massive frame barely fitting through gaps designed for smaller species. Maya ran the course with them, not competing, but demonstrating, encouraging, occasionally barking corrections or warnings. When Mist's environmental suit started failing under the strain, she was there instantly, helping him adjust the settings, refusing to let him quit. When Click's legs gave out halfway through the second circuit, Maya crouched beside her, voice low and intense. You think you're done. You think this is your limit. It's not. Your body is lying to you right now, telling you it can't continue. But it can, it will. You just have to decide that stopping is worse than continuing. Now get up. Click, get up and finish what you started. Click, got up. Trembling, exhausted, every movement agony. But she got up, and she finished. One by one, they all finished. The first to complete all 3 circuits was surprisingly not Gorvan, but a wiry Kryn named Zenth, whose lighter frame and determination carried him through in just under 30 minutes. The last to finish was a Tharsis named Amber, who took nearly 2 hours but refused to quit even when her exoskeleton cracked from the strain. When it was finally over, when every single recruit had crossed the finish line and collapsed in exhausted heaps, Maya stood before them one last time. You did it, every single one of you, and tomorrow we do it again, and the next day, and the day after that, until this becomes easy, until you can do this in your sleep, until you are the weapons I know you can be. She paused, surveying the broken, gasping, but unmistakably proud. Recruits sprawled before her. "Dismissed. Rest well. You earned it." As they limped away, Gorvan stopped beside Maya, his massive frame still heaving with exertion. "Sergeant, I have learned something today." "What's that?" "Humans are not strong because of Earth's gravity. You are strong because you choose to be, every day, every moment. That is the real lesson. Yes?" Maya met his eyes, and for the first time since arriving, she let her guard down completely. "That's exactly the lesson, Gorvan. And you just graduated from student to someone who understands. Keep that mindset, and you'll be unstoppable." As the sun set over Station Kepler, casting long shadows through the gymnasium windows, Maya Reeves allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. They were getting it. Finally, they were understanding what it meant to push beyond limits, to find strength not in muscle or size, but in sheer, stubborn, human determination. And tomorrow, she would push them even harder. Because that's what Deathworlders do. Subscribe to my channel for more sci-fi stories.